The push to provide the underground services into the suburbs caused a spur in suburban development. The Great War caused a rush in new, affordable and modern housing, while the allure of living away from the smoggy city centre was too attractive for many commuters. The Metropolitan took this new and bold development to a whole new level. The Metropolitan actively promoted land for new housing adjacent to their own proposed extensions into the countryside. Instead of the station being built to serve a town would be built to serve the station. General Manager Robert Selby, who had been looking for new ideas to promote the railway, founded a new company to complement this new business venture. The Metropolitan Country Estates Limited, or MRCE, was created to help develop new plots. The vision was to house commuters who would buy season tickets for their railway, and as the railway was parked in the centre of the new estate, the revenue would be consistent and plentiful. The promoters touted the new venture as Metroland. It was promoted as an idyllic place with the benefits of the sights, sounds and air of the country, but with the inner city links the modern commuter would use. The MRCE got to work building a variety of new builds ranging from simple, affordable housing to luxury apartments with the latest mod cons. They wanted to suit everyone's pockets. New estates and districts were established. Metroland was a huge success and encouraged a swell of suburban development in the northwest part of London. Thanks to Metroland's success, the fact that the railway had its own rolling stock and power station, the Metropolitan Railway was able to stave off all competition that threatened to swallow it. It refused to be influenced by other railways. Although it did get inspiration from the famous roundel and made its own logo, but it was more used as a mark of distinction rather than to help passengers with platform and station names. Frank Pitt's designs, his modern stations, his new rolling stock, and the overall running of the railway left the Metropolitan looking older and more outdated as the years went by. Even the new Metroland stations conveyed the railway's air of age and old-fashioned designs. Unlike Pick's modern stations that distinguished themselves from other buildings, the station around the new towns looked more old mansions and pubs. Keen to shed this old-fashioned cloak surrounding themselves, the Metropolitan brought in a new fleet of Bobo electric engines. Built in Barrow in Cumbria, these new electric engine uses a four-axle and two-bogie wheel arrangement, still found in modern locomotives today. They weigh 61 tonnes and could run an impressive 65 miles an hour. The new engines made a very big entrance after being displayed at the British Empire exhibition next to its stablemate, the infamous Flying Scotsman. They were painted in the Metropolitan maroon and given the names of prominent English men and women rather than numbers. Even though the Metropolitan didn't use steam on the underground lines, its overground fleet consisted predominantly of steam locomotives. This fleet was revamped and 14 new H-class tank engines were introduced. 6 new K-class 264 built by Armstrong Whitworth took up the slack and took passengers to their destinations where electric couldn't go. The engines were mixed traffic and were the main source of traction for the Metropolitan's goods income. They wanted to offer a more conventional railway service with a range of extras, even incorporating a new delivery door-to-door parcel service with a new road and lorry fleet. The Metropolitan continued to upgrade the stock straight through the 20s and the 30s. Old wooden carriages that were used in the era of steam were upgraded to electric multiple units with larger cab windows, and the new T-model coaches with new bearings would outsee the end of the Metropolitan and be used for many years to come. The 1930s would be the most pinnacle decade for the Underground. Old stuffy stations were being modernised and redesigned with modern Art Deco features. Frank Pick, director of the LER, commissioned architect Charles Holden to work on upgrading the overground stations. Pick rubber-stamped every change from the ticket booths to the lighting and took inspiration from continental influences. All of this was going on under the Metropolitan's nose. But in 1933, the Metropolitan would finally see its demise as an independent company. The consolidation of the different transport companies was discussed as early as the 1920s, and it wasn't really the trains that forced the issue in 1933. It was the bus routes that were coming under fire. Chaotic and bitter, the London General Omnibus Company were at corporate war with bitter rivals and pirate companies who would offer alternative routes and undercut passenger fees. It was decided that a new group would be created which would oversee all public transport within London. This included the various companies on the Underground. The London Passenger Transport Board was created. At the helm, much to the Metropolitans' dismay, was Lord Ashfield and Frank Pick. Their empire had expanded and enveloped not only all of the Underground routes, but every London bus, trolley and tram. The mainline railways would remain independent, but they did agree to pool fares and complied to set up with a joint committee to help plan developments. The Metropolitan had no choice. It was government bound to finally be absorbed into the giant of the London Passenger Transport Board. Its steam operations were handed to the LNER, its Metroline's dreams were left in the dust, and it was forced to abandon its little-used branch lines in Buckinghamshire. Frank Pick's final act tore at the Metropolitan's heart when he removed the Metropolitan's unique signage and diamond roundels, replacing them with his own. In just a space of a few months, the once mighty Metropolitan, the original and founding company of the London Underground, was no more. Now that the amalgamation of the Underground was complete and Frank Pick's and Lord Ashfield's dream was now a reality, they set to work. The first thing they did was look at the map of the whole Underground network. They both agreed that while the map was geographically correct, it was confusing. Stations that were unique to the Metropolitan were metres away from their other stations, and cramming all the stations' name into one map with intersections where lines crossed was simply too much. Down the line, a former signalman called Harry Beck saw the same problem. Using wiring diagram layouts as a guide, Beck drew a different type of map. It wasn't accurate geographically, but it showed the sequence of stations with straight lines in between and was much clearer to see and navigate what station intersected what line. He started at the centre and expanded his diagram to include the outer stations and routes. The diagram was spaced out all the stations equally so they were easier to read and understand, and it was colour coded so we know what line went where. Beck submitted his first design to Frank Pick, who dismissed the idea as too radical. But Beck was persistent. "It's going to work," he insisted. Pick, possibly exasperated by the signalman's constant submissions, finally relented and made an initial trial print of 500 maps. For one of the few times in his life, Pick had to admit he was wrong when he went to the printers the next year and ordered 750,000 of them. The public were delighted with the new design. The maps were easy to read, and soon every station on the network had the new design available. Beck was packed up back on the payroll, but was working in the publicity office as a hired freelance cartographer. His sum for creating the world's most successful railway map? 10 guineas, about £10.50. It was a measly sum for such an incredible design, but Beck was fiercely protected over his map and sought first refusal over any changes or additions. He passed away in 1971, still angry about his treatment. His legacy still lives on, and his subways around the world have adopted his design some way or another. The map is a timeless masterpiece of graphic design, which can be added or modified with the ease as the network changes. As a lasting nod to its creator, every London tube map produced now proudly carries Beck's name in the corner. Well, we are well into the mid-30s, and next time we look further into the Golden Age, the new stock and buildings, how new stock shaped the network, and we look at how the Second World War put the stopper on the Great Age when the Blitz rocked the city to the core.